It's early autumn now, and I brought these maple seedlings in to show you what you can do with them. Now, these maple seedlings are grown for us. Although we sow our own maples, when we sow our maples, we don't grow them so vigorously. These are grown by specialist growers who really specialize in maples. And a large maple like this, which I showed you on another video that I was doing. How tall is this? This is nearly 5 foot tall. And this is only 2 years old, I believe, or 3 years old. So the first day it was here and then chopped, and then all this growth, more than 4 foot, has grown this year. So they do grow at the rate of knots. Now, just to show you, it's like people, you know, they all grow at different rates. These are the same age. And you see, absolutely the same age. Why is one small and one large? It's difficult to explain. It's just that some people have stronger genes, I suppose. So you get all sorts. So with a mixture of this, several thicknesses and types, let's see what we can do. Look at this. This is absolutely tiny. How can you compare the two? It's absolutely the same age. So let's show you what we do with these. When you have a thick maple like this, what I would do is I just grow them in bigger and bigger pots or plant them in the ground to thicken the trunk, and I would say in 3 or 5 years' time I would have a complete bonsai. When it reaches to this thickness, they're very, very hard to bend. There are some growers who grow maples in the S shape, the informal upright shape. This is a very good example. Beautiful S-shaped mountain maple. Look at the beautiful S there. And to get that S shape, you've got to work with trees that are really thin. You can't bend this anymore. If you try to bend this, it would snap. So forget about this. Even if you try to bend something like this, would be quite difficult. It would snap. So if you want to create those S shapes, you've got to get them slightly thicker than a matchstick. And that's the ideal size for bending it. So let me show you how we would do that. The S shape is a very popular shape, as you know, and there are many people who like it. I like it very much, but it's hard to make. And in Japan, the mountain maples are generally not wired into an S, but those that are wired into an S apparently are quite sought after. So let me just cut this piece of wire and show you what we do. Well, I don't need the tree that tall, so I just wrap it loosely. I won't wrap it tight. Don't wrap it tight. So this is one case where when we're wiring the trunk, we keep it a bit loose. It's just to guide the growth. Remember that if you leave the wire on too long on a maple, they do mark. So maples are very susceptible to being marked. So do be careful about that. So it's this thickness of maple that you can wire into the S shape. So that is the S you can make with maples. Now once you've wired it, transfer it into a bigger pot, either a bigger flower pot or a bonsai training pot, and put them on gradually in stages. So that is how the S-shaped maples are made. Now, what else can we do with these? Of course, you can make the forest, which I showed you on another video. But the S-shape, of course, is popular, so that is the best option. If you wanted to grow them just as ordinary maples without any shaping, supposing a tree like this, you want to start training it as a bonsai, you just cut all that off. What a shame. Cut 3 or 4 feet off and just bring it down to this height and then let the side shoots grow. If you don't prune the leading shoots, it will keep shooting to the sky and you won't get any side branches. If you stop it, it will force the side shoots to grow. So this is what I would do with this one. But if I wanted to make it into a tall garden tree or get the trunk to get even thicker, I would not touch it at all, plant it in the ground and let it just race away and grow unchecked. So that is the option I would do. Another very popular thing to do with these young maples is to grow them in the clump style. The clump style, you should really try and choose trees that are of the same provenance. Very hard to decide, although at this time of the year when you see them in leaf, choose the leaves which are fairly similar. These were obviously grown from different types of seed, so you wouldn't really know without looking. You see the colors are different. Now, if I planted them in a clump, I remember buying some clumps from Japan years ago, about 30 years ago, and quite a few of them, when they get into autumn, the separate trunks all have different colors. And this is because they joined, trees of different varieties together. In the summer, they would look all right because they're all green. But come the autumn, the telltale signs are that you will get maples of different colors or a clump with different colors. Every stem has a different color. I'm trying to choose leaf shapes which are same. So these two leaf shapes are fairly similar. So I can use these two. I wouldn't use that one because it's got a purple stem. I think it's more like a atro. And then there's another one which is fairly similar leaf shape, so I would choose that. So you be careful what you choose. Also, it is advisable to choose maples which are fairly similar in thickness. If you use some which are thick and some which are thin, what would happen is that you might get the large trees swamping the little ones, and when that happens, the little ones will die because the big ones will take over. So that is nature in its raw form, dog eat dog, survival of the fittest, and that sort of thing. So let's see how we tackle the clump style. Because it's getting near autumn time, I'm just going to bring a rake. We can, at this time of the year, tease the roots quite a bit, almost making it bare. The leaves are about to fall, so that doesn't matter. You shouldn't do this in the summer. You can do it in a very early spring, but not in the middle of summer. So I'm trying to bare root it. I'm trying to find trees fairly similar thickness and trees which are almost the same shape. A lot of people try to make too much of a mystique about creating these multi-trunk styles, but there's nothing to it really. The Japanese term for this, as you know, I'm not a great lover of using Japanese terms. Japanese terms are used by Japanese people, and bonsai is universal, so you don't have to use Japanese terms. The Japanese call it kabudachi. So if you did that, for instance, you would get a twin trunk tree. And if you put one more, so that it comes out like that, that would make your triple trunk. Now, how would you keep it together? I think if you just tie a piece of wire lightly and make sure the wire marks don't mark the tree. And then to make it more manageable, we're going to cut all that lovely growth off. Don't worry, it'll grow again. And then simply, again, put it in a training pot or a big flower pot, or you can even plant it in the flower bed or in the ground. When we used to go to Japan back in 1989, 1990, there used to be a grower, I can't remember his name. I think it was called Ishiguro, and he specialized in planting these clump styles. So this is how you would make a clump style. You could put 5 trees, 7 trees, or whatever. But the advice is to try and keep them similar thickness. Don't try and match a really thick tree with a thin tree, because as sure as hell, the big tree will swamp the little ones and it will kill them. So let me just show you what I'm going to do. These are all fairly similar thickness. I will do a 5 clump. Here's my little robin again. They are really scavengers because they're scavenging for these little earthworms and other grubs that are in the soil. I think the robin is a classic British bird. Always likes to come in the garden. Okay, we don't need them that tall, so I'm going to cut some of these short. Some people try to make clumps by sowing seeds together and letting the seeds germinate. That is one way of doing it, but I wouldn't say it's the best way, because you don't have any control over the way the trees actually grow. They will grow in a haphazard manner, at least like this. You can make them lean or grow out whichever way you wish. You can do this with so many different species. I used to do it a lot with Japanese larch, because Japanese larch was a very popular species. And when I first started the nursery, before importing anything, the only plants I could buy cheaply were Japanese larch. So I used to use a lot of larch. And among some of the styles was the very simple style like this, the clump style. I still have 1 or 2 clumps knocking around. I will show you. They were imported from Japan 30 years ago. It's one of these things you wish you had 4 hands. So you can adjust it till you see it looking right, you see? You don't want any crossing, you want them all coming out radially like that. So once you've got that sort of formation, all you do is put it in a flower pot and it should grow. I'm not going to sell these. The trouble is, every time I make a video, people come to the nursery and see the plants. Oh, I recognize this, you did it on YouTube, I want to buy it. But I must resist selling these, and I'm going to show you the progression of these trees. So this is how you do the clump style, and so if you wait a minute, I will show you some examples of the proper ones that come from Japan. So here's a clump that I imported from Japan about 30 years ago, and they're all made from separate trees. And you must be wondering why 4. They seldom use the even numbers. There's usually 3, 5 or 7s. So one tree has obviously succumbed or been killed by the others. So this is one example. Let me show you another example. These will go back in a bonsai pot. And this one I'm restyling and regrowing because it was getting too tall, so I cut it back. So look at this one. Now this one has again got 4, but there one of the trees has died. It happens, so don't blame yourself, because very often you get trees that are very vigorous and it swamps the other one. Now this one, I think this one is dying, so I think I will cut that out and make it like a triple. So these trees are all being restyled because as they grow, they change, and I will show you what I'm going to do with this. After I've done it, I'll come back to you. So this one has been grown in a basket in moss, so you can see all those lovely roots. And in the spring, it's going to go back in a bonsai pot, where, as I say, I'm in the middle of changing the style of this tree because it was growing too tall and too lanky. So we're reducing the leaders. All the leaders are going to be reduced in height. Some more growing to do. And one tree I can see is dying, so let's take it out. So it happens, so don't blame yourself. It's very hard to get the tool in there. That's the trouble with growing clump style. It's very hard to keep all of them alive. This I find is quite common with clumps. So what I would do with this tree is we would grow this as the front portion. This is going to be front, so it's going to be a lovely triple like that. So I won't rush to pot it up, so that's going to be the triple trunk for this tree. So that's going to be a triangular shape like so, and this will take on a new lease of life. But as I say, our major repotting of maples is done in early February. So these are all going to be kept aside till early February. Same with this, we may do some carving. This is really old, so this got a different character. Although it's got 4 trunks, I don't think it detracts from the beauty of this tree. It is really beautiful. So there you go.